At Talos, we know cybersecurity can be tough and you can't protect everything, but with Talos, you can secure what matters most. With Talos industry-leading platforms, you can protect critical applications, data, and identities, anywhere and at scale with the highest ROI. That's why the most trusted brands and largest banks, retailers, and healthcare companies in the world rely on Talos to protect what matters most: applications, data, and identities. That's Talos, T-H-A-L-E-S. Learn more at talosgroup.com/cyber.
Hi, and welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I'm the Executive Director of the National Street Food Vendors Association, which is a nonprofit dedicated to education, advocacy, and uplifting all food vendors. Today we're going to be talking about something that's called Ban the Box, and I'll explain what Ban the Box means. But first I want to tell you about Edison, New Jersey. I'm going to be there this year on December 2nd and 3rd of 2025. I'm going to be a part of the Food Truck Owners Expo, where I'll be giving 2 classes. I will be then, after the educational component is over, each day out on the main expo floor, where you guys can join me in my National Street Food Vendors Association booth. You can share your success stories. You can ask me any questions about the business, and we can just hang out and have a great time there in Edison, New Jersey. Again, December 2nd and 3rd of 2025. Go to FTOexpo.com, place your order for the tickets today, and when you do, put in the code FTTG15 for a 15% discount. So what am I talking about? What does Ban the Box mean? Well, technically it's called fair chance hiring. It's a law that's been put into place to prevent people from putting on an application, have you been convicted of a felony in the past? And then of course someone checks it, and then their application is thrown in the trash. What that does to you as a food truck owner is it potentially could take you out of hiring people that probably deserve to be hired. But you're going, they're felonies. It's okay. We're going to talk about what you're looking for and what this particular bill impacts you and how you can fix that worry about hiring somebody that has a criminal background. So what fair chance hiring is all about is just requiring you to hire on merit, requiring you to hire amazingly on can they do the job or can they not? Pretty simple thing. And you would think that at our level, we would hire based on that. There are some people that do not. All I hear about from an employee is, can you do the job that's required? Remember, I teach everybody how to do everything. So I'm looking for people that can cook as well as people that will smile when somebody walks up to the window. And I want that out of my cooks as well as my cashiers. And I want them to go back and forth from position to position just to break up boredom. So let's talk about the details of this Ban the Box. Again, it is to prevent that question from being on your application, whether it's a paper application or an online application that says, have you been convicted of a crime? So you can't do that. That doesn't mean that you're required to hire felons and people that have been convicted of misdemeanors. What it means is you can't ask them initially. You can't use that to filter them out. So you're going to read through their application. So does it make sense where they live? Do they have the skill sets listed that I need? They've been a cashier somewhere else, they've been a cook somewhere else. Or they could have no experience. They're just young enough that they're fresh out of school. I like the ones that are fresh out of school. I don't have to worry about breaking bad habits. Can't tell you how many people I hired and they'll say, well, Taco Bell, we did it this way. Well, dude, you're not at Taco Bell. This is my place and you will do it this way. If it's beyond your skill set to do it this way, let me know now so that I can let you go now. Amazing how many people will change their attitude when you put it that way. And don't say, well, I can't hire nobody, so I can't be that mean. Well, look in the mirror tomorrow. There's your problem on hiring. So what should you do? You're going to talk to somebody in that interview process. You're going to ask them questions relative to their background and their experience to draw out of them. Will they be a good cook? Will they be a good cashier? Does it make sense for the job they're doing? So as you go all the way through that interview process and you feel like, I want to hire this person, here's where we're going to start to talk about some serious things. We're going to make what's called a conditional offer. I'd love to bring you on. I'll start you next Monday. But between now and next Monday, I need you to do a background check for me. Do a drug test. If drug testing is something that's important to you, I need you to do these 2 things, and they need to be done and in by hand by, and give them a date. And then as long as you pass these things, we will hire you. Then you're also going to fill out an I-9 form, and I'm going to fill out an E-Verify form. Will there be any issues with any of these? And that's the key question to ask. Will there be any issues with the drug test, with the background test? Let me know now so we can discuss those potential issues. And then what I add when I make that comment is, if there is an issue and you don't tell me about it and the background or drug test reveals that issue, you will not get the job, because you will have cost me money. And that tells me you're not a trustworthy person. So I'm asking you right now, is your background going to show something? Is your drug test going to show something? Doesn't mean you won't get the job if you admit to it now. We're going to talk about it. But if you surprise me, you will not get the job. The question is on the ones that either come back with a issue on the background or the ones that admit there's an issue on the background, what do you do with them? Depends on what the background issue was. Retail theft, maybe I'm not going to hire them as a cashier. They might be a cook, but I'm not going to hire them as a cashier. Could be they did something that has nothing to do with the retail world at all. One of the very first people that trained me back in 1977, and I didn't learn this till I think 3 or 4 years later. He was a guy that was a little bit older than me, but as a youth, as a juvenile, as somebody under 18, he got a hold of some alcohol and was driving. He ended up causing a wreck that took someone's life. Because of him being a minor and the way the laws were back then, it wasn't as serious. And of course, it was sealed so that you couldn't find it. But he learned his lesson. He never drank again, and the guy now is in his 60s, just like I am. He hasn't had a drink since he was a teenager, and he's had a very, very productive life. So he learned his lesson, but he could have not been hired just by checking that box that says, yeah, I've been convicted. But the conviction had nothing to do with his skill set as a restaurant employee. And again, he was very good. He trained me, and I learned a whole lot from him. The only thing he didn't teach me, I wish he would have taught me, is, hey, you need to be fast at this. So I wouldn't have had to have been embarrassed if you heard my podcasts on how people thought I was really, really slow way back in the day. So having something negative on their background doesn't automatically take them out of contention for a job, but you got to be able to talk to them. There's been somebody that I hired that had a very, very bad instance on their background check. They actually were in jail for a number of years, finally got released. The issue that the guy had nothing to do with the retail world at all. And it's kind of issue that people would hold against somebody for the rest of their life. So he came in and was talking to me and he said, I just need to tell you right now, I've been convicted. I'm still on parole, because that's part of what parole tells you. You have to let the boss know that you're on parole, because the parole officer can show up at work at any time. So you don't want your boss to be surprised that, oh, why is this police officer asking about you? So he had to tell me. He said, if you hire me, there's a chance the parole officer is going to call you or come here and check on me to make sure I'm actually working. The job that he was being hired for was just a maintenance guy. He was not going to interact with employees, not much. He was not going to interact with guests at all. All he was going to do is take out the trash, clean the windows, scrub the floors, scrub the parking lot, clean up the oil spills, that kind of thing that happen in a restaurant. He's going to do all the physical things that a lot of people just don't like doing. And then during lunch, while we were in service, he would run the easiest position, which back then was the broiler at Burger King, which all he had to do was cook meat, toast buns. And it was a simple job. I could teach somebody the job in 3 or 4 minutes. And all he had to do was look at the level lights. In level 1, we had to have 3 burgers and 3 buns up at all times. And that's what he'd do. Pretty simple, mindless job. He would also be the first person to get off work. And he would be the one that I would say, okay, it's a little bit slow right now. Go ahead and take out the trash in the dining room, take out all the trash in the kitchen, and you can go off the clock. And he did that for over a year. Not a problem. He ended up being a very good employee, but he kept to himself because his background, he just didn't want to talk to anybody about that background. But had I just said, oh no, you've got a conviction, we're not even going to talk to you, I wouldn't have had that good employee for over a year. Now, I'm not saying that everyone like that who has a criminal history is worth hiring. You got to get into the details and make sure that it still makes sense for you and your business. So what I want you to do is make sure that your application process has no little checkbox on it, because it will become a contention legally very, very soon. So what you're concerned with is their skills, their availability, and do they have something to do with food service as a background. We don't care about criminal history at this point. You're going to interview the person and talk to them about the skills that they bring to the business. And if you're happy with the way that interview goes without discussing, hey, have you been arrested in the past? And you make that job offer, then it's going to be what's known as a conditional job offer. You're going to say, hey, dude, I would love to hire you. This is what we're going to do. We're going to fill out an I-9. An I-9 is a legal form that says they have the right to work in the United States. You should know that. If you don't know that, there's a problem. An I-9 requires 2 forms of identification. One is a picture ID that matches the picture of the person to their formal name. And then the second piece of paperwork you need from them is their Social Security. And there's 3 or 4 other pieces of paper that show they have the right to work in the United States. Those pieces of paper typically don't have a photo ID on them. So you're going to match the formal name on the Social Security card, for example, with the formal name on the picture ID, and then match the picture to the person sitting in front of you. If all of those match, good to go. Fill out the I-9. One step closer to having an official job. Second thing you're going to do is E-Verify. E-Verify is free. E-Verify proves that the Social Security number that you have is a legitimate Social Security number. There are people that will have one social security number and they pass it around to everybody in their house. They all get a job with the same name working off of one social security number. Obviously all illegal. Have I seen this? Yes, I have. And our system flagged it because this is already in your system working at another restaurant down the road. Working in, again, one of our franchises. They weren't even smart enough to go work at a different company. They thought they could work for two different units, same social security number, but with different names. Doesn't work that way. So once they pass the E-Verify, then you're going to say one last thing you got to do, and that is a background check. And if you do a drug check, do a drug check. And you ask them point blank, is there going to be an issue with this background check? Now, the issue will not prevent you from getting a job, but we need to know about it now. In most cases, someone that does have an issue that will show up on their background, they'll say, hey, there's going to be this conviction. And they'll go through their story. Then you need to listen and see what the details are. Do the details make sense? Do they feel repentant? Do you feel like they are going to do a good job and not break the law again? So that's one scenario where they tell you up front before you ever do the background check. So they've saved you money actually at that point, because you don't need to do a background check because they're admitting what's on their background. Then you have the ones that will say, oh, no, I'm clean. There'll be no problem. And then they never, ever do the background. So you give them a deadline. I need this paperwork done by. Usually give them 3 to 4 days. And if you don't have this paperwork back in my hand, then the job offer has been terminated. So they saved you money. And that happens in a small percentage of people when you tell them there's a background check. Then there'll be the people that say, oh, no, there's no problem with my background. And there comes back to be a problem with the background. Those are the ones that I tell. If you make me spend the money and you're telling me that you have a clean background and it comes back showing that you're not, you will not get the job. I don't care what the infraction was that you did. It could be running a number of red lights. And if that comes back on your background and you don't tell me about it, then that tells me you're a liar and you're hoping that I'm too stupid to figure something out and we don't need to work together. But if you tell me, yeah, there's something on my background, and you tell me what it is, and I say, go ahead, fill out paperwork, and as long as that's all there is, you still got the job, then you've been honest, and I'll let you work. And there are people that will do that. And I've had to say, no, if you told me you were clean, and you're not, so you don't get the job. And then, of course, there will be people that are clean, and you'll have spent the money, but at least now you know that they are good to go as far as their background. But the goal of this law is for people as employers to discuss the job based on skills, not based on anything else. Because you really don't care what their background is. What you care about is, can they wait on your guests and be fast and be efficient and be friendly. So what you need to do is just make sure that whatever system you're using for applications doesn't have that, have you been convicted of a crime? Because that will, at some point in the very near future, be an illegal thing to be on an application. So just go ahead and take it off now, and then decide whether you're going to do background checks or not. Or you could just bluff your way through it, tell them you're going to do a background check, and then ask that question that I did about, we're going to have you fill out this background. So I would like you to tell me right now, is there going to be something on the background that I need to know of? Doesn't mean you won't get the job if you are honest with me today. And then you can make that decision on whether you want to hire them or not. Because I want to know the story behind, why'd you get arrested? And all they wanted was a chance to work while they were getting their life together. Thank you guys so much for listening to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. If you're finding everything helpful that we do, please consider subscribing. If you love what we do, show some support. There's a link in the description to make that happen. Until next time, you guys have a profitable day.